Now, President Trump is now advocating for Bible literacy lessons in U.S. schools. Now, on Twitter, Trump had tweeted out, quote, numerous states introducing Bible literacy classes, giving students the option of studying the Bible. Starting to make a turn back? Great. Now, this was after, of course, he was live tweeting Fox and Friends over this. But basically what's been going on here is that there have been proposals in at least 6 states that would make public schools offer what they call optional classes on the Bible's literary and historical significance. Now, does the Bible have literary and historical significance? Well, sure. It has been something that a lot of governments and a lot of movements have been based on. So if you want to study the significance in historical context, okay, well, that's perfectly fine, right? Now, the problem is that, as I'm going to show you, that's not what's going on here. But first, Bible literacy bills were introduced in Florida, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Virginia, and West Virginia in 2019, according to the ACLU, which said that Bible literacy bills were also considered in Alabama, Iowa, and West Virginia last year, but did not pass. So now it's very important that I point out why this is happening and what's going on here, and why this would be a terrible idea. Well, for one, critics say that such measures come close to violating or may violate the constitutional separation between church and state. Now, how would it do that? I mean, look, if it's presented in context and it's optional and it's all about, history and its impact, then if they treated it like any other book, okay. Even I could be in favor of having an optional thing, but, and my caveat to it is, add in also other religious books, like the Mahabharata, the Quran. I know that I just made people's head explodes. And all that other, all these other important cultural, books, have them study the context and their effect on the respective cultures. I'd be absolutely fine with that. I think actually the most effective way of making people into atheists is to actually have them study the Bible. But anyway, the proposed bills, and as you're going to see, this is not that, are linked to an initiative called Project Blitz. Now, that project is coordinated by a variety of conservative Christian groups, including the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation and the National Legal Foundation, as reported by USA Today. So, as I said before, you might think, well, wait a minute, it's optional, and they're saying that this is just gonna, look at the historical significance. Well, the ACLU said it's investigated the courses and uncovered public school teachers using the Bible to impart religious life lessons and other practices which fall far short of the constitutionally permissive academic and objective study of the Bible and its historical context or literary value. So basically, this is one thing, calling it, oh no, this is just a study class where you get to look at it in its context, but it's not actually religious. But they've turned it into basically a Bible study class as if you were sitting in church. Well, that's not at all what you're supposed to do in a school, in an educational environment. You want to do that at church? Well, that's what church is for. That's not what school is for. School is for teaching facts, right? If you want your kids to learn your religion, then you send them to church. Now, apparently, a lot of religious leaders are probably freaking out. Evangelicals are freaking out because the United States is continuing to become less and less of a religious country. So their solution to that, and again, you can look at various different polls that show that people that are identifying, or not identifying with religion are a growing segment of the population. They look at that and go, oh my God, we got to do something about that, literally. I know, let's try to find some way to shoehorn religion into schools so we can drive those people, those young people, into the churches. And so, guess what? That's what they're doing. Under the leadership of Betsy DeVos, who hates public education, who would love to see religious indoctrination put in their schools is okay with this, is fine with this, and is pushing this and also pushing to defund public schools and do charter schools. This is a multi-front attack on both secularism and on the education system as a whole. You can see what they're doing here. It's very obvious. So yes, this is a violation of church and state if that's what they're doing. And look, there's one thing that they could do. Remove the courses. I think that's obvious. Or if you really are set on having a biblical study course that actually does look at the historical context, because I think that course would actually be fairly informative and actually pretty interesting. As I actually like learning about other religions, and I actually like studying them in their context. Now, one way to do that, though, and I don't think you're going to like it, but one way to actually have these classes still is that you start offering the same courses with other religions. For example, a course on Islam. Are they going to do that? Of course they're not. No, their heads would explode. I mean, look, I have a general rule when it comes to religion in the classroom, right? For one, don't do it. That's the first rule. If there's a second rule is, if you're going to do it, well, then you have to do it for other religions. And it basically comes down to this principle. If you look at a piece of legislation on Christianity or the Bible, right? If you can apply the same thing to, like, say, the Quran and have it be okay, well, then you're good. But if you can't, if you can't apply it to Muslims or Jewish people or Hindus or whatever, then it's probably a bad bill. Then it's probably a bad piece of legislation meant for one purpose, and that is to indoctrinate people into your religion. And so if you're in favor of this, even knowing that context, then we know what you're in favor of. For one, we know that you don't care about Bible literacy at all. Number two, you only want to use public resources in order to spread your religion. And that, right there, is anti-American. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.